Hey everybody, it's me, Gruey, and today is 5/26 or May 26th. Can you guys believe it's almost the end of May already? Right? This is crazy. So, anyway, I digress. For today's classwork, you guys are reading pages 63 through 71 of Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. So, today for your guys' classwork, it's all in that one big Google form. So you guys are going to start out by putting your name and the day of the week for your assignment, and then you'll see that the reading is broken up by section, and each reading is labeled what questions you'll be answering. So, let's begin. For this first text, you're going to be answering questions 1 and 2. So, without further ado, Coates writes, "The girl with the long dreads who changed me, whom I so wanted to love. She loved a boy about whom I think every day, and about whom I expect to think every day for the rest of my life. I think sometimes that he was an invention, and in some ways he is, because when the young are killed, they are haloed by all that was possible, all that was plundered. But I know that I had love for this boy, Prince Jones, which is to say that I would smile whenever I saw him, for I felt the warmth when I was around him, and I was slightly sad when the time came to trade Dap and for one of us to go. The thing to understand about Prince Jones is that he exhibited the whole of his given name. He was handsome. He was tall and brown, built thin and powerful like a wide receiver. He was the son of a prominent doctor. He was born again, a state I did not share but respected. He was kind. Generosity radiated off of him, and he seemed to have a facility with everyone and everything. This can never be true, but there are people who pull the illusion off without effort, and Prince was one of them. I can only say what I saw, what I felt. There are people whom we do not fully know, and yet they live in a warm place within us, and when they are plundered, when they lose their bodies and their dark energy disperses, that place becomes a wound." So, let's pause here. Question 1 asks us, based on this first paragraph, what has happened to Prince Jones? Well, we've got a few things we could talk about. There's only one real answer that seems to be clear, though. Prince Jones seems to have died. And question 2 then asks us for evidence to support this. So let me explain how I would assume Prince Jones is dead. So towards the middle of that first paragraph, Coates says that when the young are killed, they are haloed by all that was possible, all that was plundered. So this right there gives me a hint that Prince Jones most likely is dead. The other thing is a little bit lower in the paragraph than that. He says he was handsome, he was tall and brown, he was the son of a prominent doctor, he was born again. All of these are he was, meaning he no longer is. So I could use that evidence as well to show this. I could also use that last sentence of the paragraph. He says, "There are people whom we do not fully know, and yet they live in a warm place within us. And when they are plundered, when they lose their bodies, and the dark energy disperses, that place becomes a wound." He's talked in this paragraph about how he holds Prince Jones in this warm place in his own heart. So that again lets me assume that Prince Jones has died. For this next part, we've got 2 paragraphs we're going to read, and we're only going to answer 1 question. So let's begin. Coates says, "I fell in love at the Mecca one last time. Lost my balance and all my boyhood confusion under the spell of a girl from Chicago. This was your mother. I see us standing there with a group of friends in the living room of her home. I stood with a blunt in one hand and a beer in another. I inhaled, passed it off to the Chicago girl, and when I brushed her long, elegant fingers, I shuddered a bit from the blast. She brought the blunt to her plum-painted lips, pulled, exhaled, then pulled the smoke back in. A week earlier, I had kissed her, and now, watching the display of smoke and flame, already feeling the effects, I was lost in running and wondering what it must be to embrace her, to be exhaled by her, to return to her and leave her high. She had never known her father, which put her in the company of the greater number of everyone I'd known. I felt then that these men, these fathers, were the greatest of cowards. But I also felt that the galaxy was playing with loaded dice, which ensured an excess of cowards in our ranks. The girl from Chicago understood this too, and she understood something more, that all are not equally robbed of their bodies, that the bodies of women are set out for pillage in ways I could never truly know. And she was the kind of black girl who'd been told as a child that she had better be smart because her looks wouldn't save her, and then told as a young woman that she was really pretty for a dark skinned girl. And so there was, all about her, a knowledge of cosmic injustices, the same knowledge I'd glimpsed all those years ago watching my father reach for his belt, watching the suburban dispatches in my living room, watching the golden haired boys with their toy trucks and football cards, and dimly perceiving the great barrier between the world and me. So, here, for question 3, what knowledge of cosmic injustices were known by the girl from Chicago? We have a few things we could talk about here. Number one, we could talk about this perception that fathers that are absent are cowards, and about how the system sets that up, and the system is in place to take away fathers. Coates seems to be talking about that here. We could also talk about her knowledge of the injustices that girls face. So when he talks about how she had been told her looks wouldn't save her, but then also told she was pretty for a dark-skinned girl, we could talk about those injustices. I'll let you decide which one stands out to you most, and in the meantime, I'm going to move forward. Now we're going to be working on questions 4 and 5. We are almost at the halfway point. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep going. Nothing between us was ever planned, not even you. We were both 24 years old when you were born, the normal age for most Americans. But among the class, we soon found ourselves. We ranked as teenage parents. With a whiff of fear, we were very often asked if we planned to marry. Marriage was presented to us as a shield against other women, other men, or the corrosive monotony of dirty socks and dishwashing. But your mother and I knew too many people who'd married and abandoned each other for less. The truth of us was always that you were our ring. We'd summoned you out of ourselves, and you were not given a vote. If only for that reason, you deserved all the protection we could muster. Everything else was subordinate to this fact. If that sounds like a weight, it shouldn't. The truth is that I owe you everything I have. Before you, I had my questions, but nothing beyond my own skin in the game. And that was really nothing at all because I was a young man and not yet clear of my own human vulnerabilities. But I was grounded and domesticated by the plain fact that should I go down now, I would not go down alone. This is what I told myself, at least. It was comforting to believe that the fate of my body and the bodies of my family were under my powers. You will have to man up, we tell our sons. Anyone can make a baby, but it takes a man to be a father. This is what they had told me all my life. It was the language of survival, a myth that helped us cope with the human sacrifice that finds us no matter our manhood. As though our hands were ever our own, as though plunder of dark energy was not at the heart of our galaxy, and the plunder was there, if I wished to see it. So, ladies and gentlemen, question 4. Did having a child empower Coates, or did it make him feel less powerful? So, tell me, does having a kid make him feel more powerful or less powerful? You could really go either way, but if you were paying close attention in that paragraph, I think one answer makes more sense than the other. Question 5 asks you what evidence would best support your answer to question 4. So some evidence that stands out to me is when he says, but I was grounded and domesticated by the plain fact that should I go down now, I would not go down alone. We could also go with evidence says, the truth is that I owe you everything I have. We could also go with the evidence that says, it was comforting to believe that the fate of my body and the bodies of my family were under my powers. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward. For this next section of text, we are only working on question 6. So while I read, I want you to think, how does having a child affect Coates? Does it affect him positively? Does it affect him negatively? Does it have a huge effect? Does it have a minimal effect? The choice is yours. So, Coates writes, "One summer, I traveled out to Chicago to see your mother. I rode down the Dan Ryan with friends and beheld for the first time the State Street Corridor, a 4-mile stretch of dilapidated public housing. There were projects all over Baltimore, but nothing so expansive as this. The housing occurred to me as a moral disaster, not just for the people living here, but for the entire region. The metropolis of commuters who drove by each day and with their quiet acquiescence tolerated such a thing. But there was so much more there in those projects than I was, even in all my curiosity, prepared to see. Your maternal grandmother once visited us during the pregnancy. She must have been horrified. We were living in Delaware. We had almost no furniture. I had left Howard without a degree and was living on the impoverished wages of a freelance writer. On the last day of her visit, I drove your grandmother to the airport. Your mother was her only child, as you are my only child, and having watched you grow, I know that nothing could possibly be more precious to her. She said to me, 'You take care of my daughter.' When she got out of the car, my world had shifted. I felt that I had crossed some threshold out of the foyer of my life and into the living room. Everything that was the past seemed to be another life. There was before you, and there was after. And in this after, you were the God I'd never had. I submitted before your needs, and I knew then that I must survive for something more than survival's sake. I must survive for you." So, ladies and gentlemen, how does having a child affect Coates? Does it have this large, profound effect on him where it changes the meaning of his life? Does it have a minimal effect where he doesn't care that he has a child? Based on what we've read, what do you think? Alright, we're going to pick back up in a second video for question 7 to the end, so I'll see you there.